I could be in and out of here with no one ever noticing. Who wants to see something fantastic?
Hey everyone, and welcome back for another guide. So today I'll be spilling my secret tricks to this insanely powerful strategist, InvisibleWoman. Although my first guide was on Cloak and Dagger, I have always been a fan of the Fantastic Four, so I kind of had to main Susan Storm. If you're new here, we'll first dive into the lore, so if you want to skip that part, feel free to look at the timestamps on the screen or in the description down below. To really grasp her playstyle, we need to go back to where it all began, because Susan Storm's story isn't just background, it's core to her identity. Susan Storm is not just a support, but a founding member of Marvel's first family. Raised on Long Island, Susan endured a turbulent childhood, losing her mother young and caring for her younger brother Johnny Storm while their father spiraled. Even as a teen, she was sharp, resilient, and protective. She met Reed Richards, a brilliant scientist, and the two would later become partners in science, love, and cosmic-level disaster management. Their fateful space mission, alongside Johnny and pilot Ben Grimm, exposed the team to cosmic radiation, changing them forever. Susan gained the power to turn invisible and wield devastating invisible force fields, tools she would master with deadly precision. Though often underestimated, especially early on, Susan quickly became the emotional and tactical core of the Fantastic Four. She's been their leader in Reed's absence and has evolved into one of Marvel's most respected strategist supports. Calm, calculated, and quietly devastating when needed. But her strength doesn't stop with superpowers. Susan is also a wife and mother, married to Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, and mother of the two of Marvel's most fascinating children. Franklin Richards, a reality-warping mutant capable of creating entire universes, and Valeria Richards, a child genius with intellect to rival Reed's, whose godfather is Dr. Doom. Yeah. Susan has encountered nearly every major Marvel figure. Ally, enemy, or awkward family friend. She has clashed and allied with Dr. Doom, resisted the romantic pull of Namor, fought alongside the Avengers, worked with the X-Men to protect her mutant son, and even stood firm in conflicts like Civil War. She may not take the spotlight, but when Susan Storm takes the field, you know who's really in control. Some of the encounters she's had are Namor, Wolverine, Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, Spider-Man, Storm, Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Galactus, Silver Surfer, and Doctor Doom. So that wraps it up for her lore. Let's take a look at her in-game kit. InvisibleWoman's basic attack, or projection, is her main source of healing. Her attack falls in the projectile category, healing 40 per hit and damaging 20 per hit. There is no damage fall-off for her attack. With her fire rate low and projectile speed high, she fires slowly, but these orbs travel fast. There is no critical hit on her attack, so a headshot or a body shot will be the same. She has 10 orbs in a maximum distance of 30 meters. Her orbs will, however, be stopped by the environment or constructs. Reloading will not take you out of invisibility state. Here's what makes her orbs special. Once fired, they travel back to her. Not only that, but these projectiles will go through allies and enemies, meaning she will heal and damage twice. Her healing becomes 80 and her damage becomes 40. To optimize healing and damage, I recommend trying to find the best line of sight for you to fire so that your allies are all being healed. Preferably, you also hit some enemies at the same time that your basic attacks travel through your allies. This way, your allies will become your meat shields. Now, the distance is 30 meters, so it can take some time for your first orb to come back to give your ally the second healing. If someone is critical and they need rapid healing, you can decrease the travel distance by shooting at your allies' feet and they will be healed much faster. Unfortunately, this only works for one ally at a time, but it can help in crucial moments. Now, I know this will be a weird section, but I need to talk about it. Cosmic, why should I care about some strategist melee when her kit is pretty solid? It's simple actually. Her melee has 3 unique hits. The first 2 will be normal melees, we don't really care about those. But the third is very important. The third will knock back the enemy by 5 meters. This means you can play ping pong with enemies that annoy you, such as Captain America. I typically use this to get them off my point or payload, or even supports. Onto the shield. Guardian Shield. This is an instant cast targeted ability that places a shield on a selected ally. It blocks up to 250 damage and instantly heals them for 50 when cast. Within the 3 meters radius of that shield, allies can continue to get healed for 50 heals per second. If your shield gets destroyed, the cooldown for it to charge back to 250 is 6 seconds. However, you can decide to recall the shield by pressing F for those of you that play on PC. The indicator for your shield's health is on the left of your screen, and I beg you to keep track of it as much as you can. Think of it as driving and looking into your rearview mirror. Do not leave the shield on the field. Recall it as soon as you're done using it to allow it to recharge. You should avoid the 6 seconds cooldown on her shield as much as possible. It can have a pretty big impact on the game when you need it most. Plus, when you want to use your shield after recalling it, you only have to wait 1 second. Recalling your shield will not break your invisibility. Although the shield value is pretty low compared to a tank's, it can still help to disrupt auto-tracking attacks for a couple seconds, or even shield part of the damage of an enemy ult. If a Magneto tries to ult your cloak, who's ulting as well, try shielding her, please. On the other hand, you can shield your allies when they ult, or use important abilities such as Punisher Turret, Star-Lord ult, Scarlet ult, Iron Man ult, Hawkeye ult, Doctor Strange ult, or even Adam Warlock ult. If you're playing against dive, give your other healer the shield and heal each other while kiting the dive before recalling your shield once again. You can try to stay close to it and provide yourselves a stable and constant source of healing. If you have flyers on your team, you might miss a lot of your attacks on them, if you know your accuracy is not at its best. I recommend giving them a shield and recasting it a couple times for that instant 50 heal. Recall the shield once you're done. Another usage on the shield that I have not mentioned yet is that it has a slow rate of 30% for 3 seconds as long as the enemies pass through that shield. If I'm getting chased, I'll try to make the enemy go through that shield and kite them. It can be good against high mobility characters like Captain America, Black Panther, or even Luna. The way I utilize my shield the most is by often casting, recasting, and recalling the shield while healing critically low allies. If you use one quick basic attack and shield your ally, it should heal for around 130. This ability has a couple of quirks I'd like to mention before we move on to her shift ability. The shield will not save you against the thing's ult. You cannot shield yourself, which renders you pretty team dependent for this ability. If you're looking to use it, you must make sure to shield an ally nearby and sprint to that shield. The direction of the shield is determined by the direction your ally is facing. Psionic Vortex. Her shift. The cast is a single cast projectile traveling at 80 meters per second. The spell field will damage enemies for 35 per second in a 5 meters radius for 4 seconds, giving a total of 140 damage. This field applies a slow onto enemies of 50% at the center, meaning the pull is greater at the center and less effective at the edges. This is a great way to farm ult charges from your enemies when your allies are full HP. You should try to utilize this ability as often as possible. As the round starts, throw your vortex on the enemy's spawn door if you are on payload or hybrid map, or in tight corridors if it's a point control map. This is a good way to start off the round with 3 to 5% ult charges. It is small, I know, but it can mean that you get your defensive ult quicker than the enemies. You can also try to save this ability against divers to slow down their flanks. The cooldown is 12 seconds with a downtime of 8 seconds. Now this is my little gremlin move, and honestly, my favorite part of her whole kit. Force Physics casts a cylindrical field with a 1.5 meter radius and a 30 meter range, which is the same as your basic attack range. It deals 55 damage and offers 2 options, push or pull. The distance for each is different, however. You push further, then you pull. You will push them for a distance of 12 meters or pull them in for a distance of 7 meters. The cooldown is 8 seconds. By pressing this ability, you will get out of your invisibility. If you want to embody a semblance of Green Goblin's energy, especially against heroes that have bullied you the entire match, or even to div the enemy invis, no judgment here, use this ability close to the edge of the map. The pure satisfaction of pushing someone off is just jubilant. I swear, once you've managed to push someone off once, you'll start morphing into an addict looking for his next high, his next victim to push down. The amount of aura you farm with this is just worth it. Sometimes, I pick Invis simply because I know the map I'm cute on has edges. Obviously, do not use your E on characters with a dash, a jump, a teleport, or a flight ability. Yes, very obvious, but do not waste your E on a Psylocke that has 1 or 2 dashes. If you manage to keep track of these types of abilities, then feel free to unleash that goblin energy onto the enemies. You might have heard of this Invis tech elsewhere, but there is also a combo with this gremlin ability. You can jump off the map, quickly use your E followed by your double jump to make it back to the platform, causing your enemy to fall. This ability is good against matchups like Scarlet, Doctor Strange, because you can just push them away from your team when they're channeling their ults. However, if that push would eliminate your entire team, it is better in those scenarios to pull them into you so you'll be the only sacrifice. Her passive, Covert Advance, will trigger after 5.5 seconds of no damage taken, and you will gain 20 healing per second while you're invisible. Ults like Star-Lord will not track you in that moment. Squirrels, however, will smell you. Run. The only thing that can stop your passive from entering is any form of targeting ability like Wanda's or AoE abilities like Groot's, especially during your double jump. If you have entered your passive state successfully, only AoE abilities will reveal you. While making this guide, I tested and learned that strategists capable of self-healing will be able to charge their ults as well with that. Another thing I'd like to point out is that enemies can hear your footsteps. Be mindful about when to move and when to stay still. Oh, and the enemies definitely feel blocked by you while you're invisible and in front of them. If you try to touch point to start overtime, a very friendly reminder to get out of your invisibility to touch, because if you stay invisible, you will not trigger overtime. Your double jump, Veiled Step, is on a cooldown of 6 seconds that makes you enter your passive state. It allows you to avoid danger, disengage a fight, or even reach a high ground. Against a dive team, I recommend holding onto this ability for your survivability. For the last part of her kit, her ultimate, Invisible Boundary. One of the best ults in the game and honestly, the easiest to understand by far. Inside a 10 meters radius and 40 meters high, you will be healed for 165 per second for a total duration of 8 seconds. The enemies will not be able to see inside her ult, but will be able to see past it. The external barriers of her ult will apply a slow of 55% for 1 second. So if we add all the possible slows being the edge of her ult, the center of the vortex, and the shield, it gives a total slow of 135%. I will say this amount of slow is very hard to achieve and is extremely situational. What is cool about this ultimate is that it is very much the size of most points that you can contest on a variety of maps. It also will cancel your invisibility as it is a type of quick channel. Her ultimate is very costly, needing 4,300 energy to use it. If you maximize your healing and use your other abilities as often as possible, it should be achievable in time for an enemy ult. This type of strategist ult is very reactive, since it is a stationary ult. It is hard to be proactive and incite your team to follow, especially when this ult counters so many DPS ults. Star-Lord, Psylocke, Hawkeye, Punisher, Storm, Human Torch, Hela, Spider-Man, Winter Soldier, and so on. For Hela, I recommend waiting a second or two if possible before ulting. If you ult as she ults, she will have 1 or 2 more seconds remaining once yours ends, and you will definitely die. Do not waste your ult on Black Widow, Black Panther, Venom, Captain America, Thor, Hulk, Scarlet, or Jeff. Trust me, you will lose value. If you want to use it to counter a support ult, I recommend waiting just a little bit or until the enemy support ult dies down to use yours and guarantee that your team will have the upper hand. However, I prefer to use it to devalue their DPS ults. If the enemy team uses 2 DPS ults like Storm and Torch, your ult will not save you. And you might think, it's not fair, but I say it is. They're using 2 full ults against a single support ult. You lose your ult's value and probably end up dead. If your team struggles to make it to point to trigger overtime, you can say invis, get to point in time, and ult the point to trigger overtime. If no enemies around it, instead of wasting your ult, just melee to get out of your invisibility and stay there quietly. Just remember, melee every 4 seconds or so. On to team-ups. She gains 15% healing boost and gives a shield to all Fantastic Four allies. You can often find a Think player to synergize with for your team up. However, Human Torch and Mr. Fantastic are strong, but very underrated and hardly picked. I've noticed that in the current season, Human Torch is often banned, so this team up will be the hardest for you to get. Let's talk about counters. Unlike Cloak and Dagger, it is hard to name a definitive counter to InvisibleWoman, as her kit is pretty solid, with a lot of ways to help her team or even escape. I'll be providing known strategist counters with examples. First, Magneto, Iron Man, Punisher, and Namor ults. These will kill you, even when you are in your ultimate, as long as they focus you. Your best bet is to be invisible and run away from the possible area they might hit. I typically will double jump outside of my ult, and only re-enter once their ult has ended. As they expect you to be inside, I use this to my advantage and stay invisible outside. Namor's ult will make you earthbound, so no double jump for you, Susie. Moon Knight. He is the backline farmer. You are a mere vegetable for him. If he decides to place an Ankh and ults you while shooting that Ankh, you are dead. Flyers. Storm, Torch, Iron Man. Good luck aiming at them. Your E, force physics, loses value against them. As a strategist, Luna works better against flyers as she is a variant of hitscan. Thing, you cannot CC this man. He just punches and slams into you like a WWE champion. If you are not careful, your double jump will get caught in his ult. Time it well or you're just seasoning for his next slam. Magic. The result of this matchup is mostly a skill check. Spider-Man. He is only a threat if you give him value by spending too much time chasing him or if he ults your backline. Otherwise, most Spider-Man players are non-existent during this match. Just make sure to time your jump well. Now, it's time for that cursed thing NetEase has released. Squirrel Girl. I swear, those tsunami squirrels have night vision goggles in a Komodo dragon's sense of smell. I run, they catch up to me. I hide in the corner, they swerve and lock their red eyes of bloodlust with me. I double jump onto a platform, they sprint towards me, urging me to come down to chew my skin off. I don't recommend always ulting a Squirrel Girl ult. But if your team is close to winning point, or you need to start overtime, or your team is very low, it might be a good idea. Now, listen. Listen! I know I play aggressively, and maybe that won't be everyone's style, that's fine. But Susan Storm's kit has so much strategic flexibility that I truly believe she thrives when played with a bit of brawler energy. As for my playstyle, I rarely play in the complete backline, as I feel her range is never long enough for me. It also allows my basic attacks to pierce through my allies and apply damage as well. I will often try to pull DPSs into my front line to punish them. I've had quite a few enemy DPS players cry in all chat that I was shooting them when they were trying to be sneaky but died to me uninvis. It's quite funny actually. There are quite a few important decisions to make when playing this character. This is my first character to master on this game and it honestly helped me to learn and understand most concepts pretty quickly. And that wraps up our deep dive into InvisibleWoman, the silent MVP of any coordinated team, and low-key, one of the most versatile heroes in the entire game. If this guide helped you understand her better, or gave you new ways to terrorize DPSs, go ahead and drop a like. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel for more Marvel Rivals content. I'd love to hear your feedback from you guys. I read every comment and it's really important to me. Thanks for watching and see you in the chaos. Ciao!